Hey, it's John at Tinderbox Arts. I'm here in the garage on a very cold day doing some maintenance on the RT, and I have the kickstand actually off. I was lubricating that, and while I was there, I was like, you know what? I really have never looked at the shift lever here, and that's something that I probably should. If I look down here, this is the linkage between the shift lever and up top there's a ball and socket, one on this side and one on this side. And they're really difficult to see in there. I want to show you how to get that apart. If you look really closely right here, you can see there's a spring clip which wraps around the top of the socket, and one leg of it is like a pin, and that pins the ball into the socket. This is actually the top piece right here, and you can see I have that out. I just used a machinist pick to kind of wiggle it and just get that pin out, but it's not easy to do, and it's easy to lose, that's for sure. So this one goes on the top ball right here, and there's a bottom ball. You can leave the adjustment alone, so you can take this apart without messing with the adjustment. And the reason I'm doing this is that I really want to get into that socket and get some grease in there, because I'm sure it's just wearing away with all this smudge from the road. Now the bottom of the linkage just had a single nut, which I don't believe is correct. I mean, I find it hard to believe that there's just a single nut there, and there is enough thread for a second nut. So even if this is the way it was intended from the factory, when I put this back together, I'm going to change that and add a second nut, probably a lock nut, to make sure that doesn't come apart, because that's something that could easily come apart. And if you look on the other side of the linkage here, there is a nut right here, so you can tighten this pretty well, but I'm a little antsy about that, not thrilled about that. On the top, it's just this pin holding this ball and socket together. Now the top of the linkage attaches to the ball up here. It's literally so tight in there that I can't get a camera in to show you, but if you get underneath the bike and kind of look up, you'll see the top of that, where that linkage connects to that ball. I'm just going to clean that ball off as best I can with a rag and get some grease on it, and then I'll get some grease on these sockets, take this apart, clean it up, and then I'll put it all back together. So it's not a terrible job. I think the important thing to understand is that these clips are probably pretty easy to lose, and I do think you want to check to make sure you have a double nut. If you don't, I would add one. Inside the socket is another clip. So the point is you're going to kind of jam this onto the ball, and that clip inside the socket will help keep it in place. So there's actually two clips on each socket. I'm using this Bel-Ray waterproof grease, which I love. I use this stuff on a lot of areas just like this, where you have, one part rubbing on another part. So to get this clip, you just kind of hook behind it like that. That springs it off of the shaft, and then you pull it straight up, and the pin comes out. The ball is not going to pop out of the socket because, like I said, there's a second spring in there. If I put a screwdriver behind there, then the ball comes out of the socket, and I can clean all that up, get some grease in there, and we'll put this back together. All right, this is the best I can do for camera access. I'm barely holding it in here. So this is the bottom of the linkage, and you can see I have the one nut on there, which is the original, and there is enough thread there to put a second nut. So that's what I'm going to do. I don't know if it came with that originally, I just don't know, but I don't like just having one nut. That could easily come loose and then you're done. So I'm going to put that second lock nut on there, and let's see what it looks like. All right, so now I have that second lock nut. It doesn't have quite enough thread, but I have one nut locked against the other one. In other words, tightened against the other one, so that'll hold. So I feel better about that. Okay, that's all buttoned up now. Feels good. I just feel a little better having some lubrication in there. It's not something you need to do very often. I mean, I have almost 30,000 on this now, and I've never done it. This is the first time I've touched it. So just an occasional thing to think about, especially if you go through a lot of road salt and or grit and stuff gets up in there, and that could eventually wear away that ball and socket and make your linkage just a little bit loose.